It's really hard to be nutrient sufficient in today's world, even if you're choosing nutrient-dense foods, because the levels of minerals in our soil are on the decline, which means our food, our plants, and the animals who eat the plants, it's all less nutrient dense than it used to be. So organ meats are a great way to kind of compensate for that.
Welcome to the Healthy Skin Show with Jennifer Fugo, where we're flipping everything you've been told about your chronic skin issues upside down and connecting you with alternative solutions your dermatologist never told you about.
Welcome back to episode number 80 of the Healthy Skin Show. In today's episode, we're going to continue the conversation that was started a couple weeks ago and talk more about nutrient depletions that can occur and perpetuate adult acne. But first, I want to answer a listener's question. Gina wrote in and asked, I've been told that I should get some sort of food intolerance testing, and then someone else told me that I should go get a food allergy test to figure out what's wrong with my skin. Is there a difference between the two, or are they the same exact thing? Gina, this is a fantastic question, and it's one that I get quite often. The way that we use the terms allergy, intolerance, and sensitivity almost interchangeably is what causes so much confusion because the three are completely different issues. A food allergy test would look at the IgE reactions. That means that it's looking for antibodies in your system that would elicit a response along the lines of hives, swelling, and could eventually, if severe enough, result in anaphylaxis and potentially death. So a food allergy test is something looking for a pretty serious issue, whereas a food sensitivity is looking at the IgG reactions. What that means is that a food sensitivity occurs because undigested food proteins are making their way into your body in between the cells that line the gut. Normally, those proteins would be completely broken down and then absorbed as individual amino acids into the cells, and then things would happen from there. But instead, the junctions between the cells become leaky, so to speak, or no longer tight. And that allows for these partially undigested food proteins to sneak into the body, and your body's like, whoa, what is that? I need to protect you. And there you go, we have a food sensitivity. The last piece is a food intolerance. This is much different and is not eliciting any sort of response from your immune system. An intolerance simply means that your body is incapable of producing a very particular enzyme to break something down. The most famous of intolerances is lactose intolerance. Lactose is the sugar naturally found in certain dairy products like cow's milk. Your body, in order to break that sugar down, needs to produce an enzyme called lactase. Some individuals are genetically prone to not produce it, and other people lose the capacity to produce it as they get older. When your body no longer can produce that particular enzyme, the sugar in the milk, lactose, ends up causing all sorts of problems within the gut that we know as lactose intolerance. So when people take a pill before consuming dairy products, they're actually consuming something that has lactase in it in order to break that down. Histamine intolerance is also another example of where we lose the ability, for a number of reasons, to be able to properly break down histamines that are being released from food or within the gut, essentially, because we need a particular enzyme, specifically diamine oxidase, also known for short as DAO. You can supplement with DAO enzymes before you eat, about 10 minutes before consuming a meal. However, most of these products are made from pork. So if you do have an allergy to pork or you don't eat pork, these would not be a good option for you. One key point that should not be lost in this conversation is that you should not use the word allergy to describe a food sensitivity or an intolerance, because ultimately it does an injustice to the severity of the type of reaction that someone can have when they have an actual allergy, whether it's to food or environmental factors like dander, pollen, etc. By saying that you have a food allergy, when in actuality you have a sensitivity, it makes it difficult for people unfamiliar with the three terms and the differences between them to understand why all of a sudden someone with an actual food allergy should be treated differently than, say, someone who merely has lactose intolerance. With that said, let's dive into today's interview with my guest, Autumn Smith. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Healthy Skin Show. Today, I've got a guest with me who is someone that I've known for a while from a distance because we have some mutual acquaintances. Actually, a pretty close friend of mine, I believe, actually works for Paleovalley now, and I've already given the name. You're like, wait, who is this? My guest today is Autumn Smith, and she's one of the founders of Paleovalley, and I love their products, and I wanted to talk to her because of her really interesting history with her health and how she wove that into creating a food company that is super based around nutrient density. That's one of the biggest takeaways from me, is that it's clean, nutrient dense and whatnot. And this is all really, it springboarded from her health journey. And you might not know this about her, but she had danced professionally and taught yoga and toured with world training celebrities like Tracy Anderson. And she was a Tracy Anderson method fitness trainer. And while she worked for Tracy Anderson, she could see that exercise alone really wasn't enough for all of her clients to get toward that state of vibrant health that everyone seeks. In the meantime, she was dealing with incurable IBS and anxiety, which put a real burden upon her own personal health. And she worked on upgrading her diet and eventually healed herself so that she is now able, through the power of food. She was then so inspired by the healing power of food that she quit her job as a personal trainer to pursue the study of holistic nutrition full-time. She earned her master's degree in nutrition from Hawthorn University and became a certified eating coach and functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. In 2013, she and her family founded Paleovalley with the goal of disseminating high-quality nutrition information and products to everyone who will listen. Her dedication to health also reached new heights following the birth of her son, Maverick. Thank you so much for joining us, Autumn. I appreciate you being here.
You're so welcome, Jennifer. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so let's talk about acne today. You know, we haven't talked a ton about acne, and I get asked quite a bit about it, especially those ladies who are a bit on the older side. So we're talking not a teenager. And all of a sudden, you're like, wait, I'm getting acne. Like, I thought I outgrew this phase of my life and I can't figure out what's going on. You're trying a lot of like topical things and it doesn't seem to work. And my gut instinct right now is you're going to tell me you've got to look on the inside. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I would love to, especially because I struggled with acne for my whole life, starting in my teens. But then, I was always like, okay, I just need to learn to accept it. But when I hit 25 and 30 and it was still happening, I was kind of like, whoa, this isn't funny anymore. And I hope everyone out there doesn't feel alone because there's a lot of people, adult acne is just on the rise. And like Jen said, it's a sign of imbalance. It took a long time for me to get here, but to kind of see your acne as a whisper from your body, just like, hey, pay attention, something isn't imbalanced. And it took me a really long time. I did the paleo diet. It helped a little bit. It wasn't until I really kind of got my micronutrients and my gut health in check that things were better all the time. Okay. So some of the things that really helped me, I just want to talk about three. The first is just micronutrients that are really, really important for the skin. I think we have this emphasis on what we're not eating in the paleo space. We're not doing gluten, we're not doing grains, we're not doing sugar, we're not doing soy, and that is all awesome because those foods aren't gonna, prevent acne. But we're not also focusing on what we should be eating, and things like vitamin A. Vitamin A in food form from animals is really, really important for your skin. It helps keep skin cells turning over rather than the dead skin cells that can clog your pores. So vitamin A is really, really important. And also zinc. Zinc and vitamin A kind of go hand in hand. You can do this like if you're not eating, oysters and you're not eating pumpkin seeds and you're not eating grass-fed red meat regularly, or if you are eating a lot of phytates like from legumes and a lot of nuts and seeds and grains, that is like the number one predictor of zinc deficiency. And I see it all the time in women with skin issues. If you are one of those people who gets kind of like dry, patchy skin that later leads to acne, That could be a big zinc thing. And you can actually do this zinc taste test. There's this Premier Research Labs zinc supplement that I get. If you taste like a little teaspoon of that and it doesn't taste super bitter and make you want to spit it out, then it's likely, or you might be deficient in zinc. So I like to throw that out there. The two other ones I see, vitamin D, it's synthesized in the skin. It acts as a hormone in our body. So you can see how vitamin D levels, when they're low, when they're off, it sets off this chain reaction that can actually be one of the underlying factors in hormonal acne. And a lot of us aren't outside enough. We're wearing sunblock. Maybe we're not eating organic produce. And sometimes pesticides can interfere with the activation of vitamin D. And maybe we're going outside, but we're also like using a lot of soap and body products that kind of interfere with those skin bacteria that help with the conversion. There's a lot of reasons. It's also hard to get from food, but checking your vitamin D status. There was a study, it was really cool. 1,000 IU a day of vitamin D actually reduced pimples by 35%, I think, over just a month. So that was cool. And the last one is vitamin C. Is, essential to collagen production. A lot of acne is caused by oxidative stress. Vitamin C is one of the most powerful antioxidants we know of. And I know there's like a RDA of 60 to 90 milligrams, but some people, especially in today's society where we're constantly bombarded by this toxicity, we actually need more vitamin C, especially if you're not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, if you're smoking, if you live in a big city, or you're in a profession where you're constantly exposed to levels of toxicity. So that's first, is think as much about what you are eating as what you're not. And there's this cool little exercise where you go to this app called Chronometer. And it's got this extensive micronutrient database, and it's kind of like Fitness Pal. So you just write what you've eaten for 3 days in there, and it'll show you which micronutrients you're low in. Of course, you can do blood testing too, but this is a nice place to start. The other two things I want to share is I was juicing garlic at the worst point in my acne.
Juicing garlic? Like garlic?
Like garlic, because which was crazy. I was convinced that it was a candida issue that I had. Garlic, has some anti-candida, antibacterial properties, and I have a food sensitivity to garlic. And so when I identified that, everything got way better. Now I know avoiding garlic is awful, but if I eat garlic 2 days later, I will get a breakout and it will be on my nose. And it's just, seems to be a certainty for me. So exploring food sensitivities, always a great idea. And the last thing that I think causes a lot of breakouts that people might know about, other than just like general gut issues, because food sensitivities are often a result of that, is hypochlorhydria, which just means you don't have enough stomach acid going on. And when you don't have enough stomach acid, you're not breaking down your food, you're not getting those nutrients. And so I see a lot of women, especially as they age, because levels of hydrochloric acid decline after 50. I see that once we restore those levels, skin breakouts don't happen as often.
Yeah, and I actually focus a lot on my personal clients, or my private clients, I should say, in helping them identify whether they have enough stomach acid, because if they're consuming any type of protein and they don't have enough stomach acid to break it down, that means that the nutrients like B12, which is typically attached to protein, doesn't get separated. The proteins aren't broken down into their smaller amino acids, because your body's not going to it doesn't absorb cow or chicken. It breaks down the pieces into the smallest parts and then absorbs them. And our body has this great wisdom to reformulate those little tiny pieces, or I like to think of them as like Legos, because it's amino acids, into whatever it is that our body needs. But the stomach acid piece is a big, big part of this. And for those of you listening, if you haven't done that low stomach acid test, which I talk often about, we'll definitely put that in the show notes here, so that if you want to give that a shot, you can. It's super easy to do at home. And that might be one of the big pieces to your puzzle. Now, one thing I wanted to add is just that piece about the vitamin C, which is super interesting. And I don't know if this, if you have any thoughts on this, but like vitamin C is one of the biggest stores in the body of vitamin C is your adrenal glands. And stress is such a big piece to this. Do you think, just from your perspective, do you think there's some connection too between like the stress and oxidative stress that our body undergoes through, whether you're exposed to chemicals or fumes or whatever, or just even, if you're in a really stressful relationship or whatever, the emotional stress can certainly be traumatic as well.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it was just last week or maybe 2 weeks ago that I came upon this research that people, when they have adequate levels of vitamin C, and when you do vitamin C, if you can do it from fresh fruits and vegetables, awesome. If you can do that 3 times a day, great. If you're taking a supplement, I would split it up, because it can actually prevent or kind of moderate the amount of cortisol you're releasing. So yes, it's important to address the sources of stress in your life, but it seems like vitamin C, in addition to just preventing oxidative stress and buffering you from toxicity, even this emotional response and the cortisol response seems to be buffered by adequate amounts of vitamin C. And by the way, like I kind of mentioned, adequate amounts they're different for everyone. They've done research, they're highly variable. And so you kind of have to find your sweet spot. But yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's definitely a connection.
And I think another point to that is that while we're talking about acne, we talk about all different chronic skin conditions here. And so I know that there's a lot of people who are listening to all of the episodes rather than just cherry picking, because they find the information, they can apply some of it to their particular circumstance. And stress is a huge trigger for many people who have eczema, psoriasis, rosacea. Like, stress is usually one of the top triggers for people. So that might also be another helpful tidbit for others listening. If they feel like they are chronically under a lot of stress, vitamin C may be a really helpful piece to their puzzle to help support the adrenal health, the dealing with free radicals that are bouncing around the body as a result of any number of things that are going on. So I really, really love that. So as far as acne is concerned, your whole thing is about food, and I believe, if I'm wrong about this, let me know, but I feel like a lot of what you do has to do with nutrient density. What would be some of your favorite foods that, if we're talking about acne, that are super nutrient dense and that are going to help somebody really see a difference, at least from, cleaning their diet up and all of that?
Okay, I love this topic because there's like 6 foods that I often talk about, actually 7, but I'm going to throw them at you. The first one, and I know a lot of people, I don't know how your audience will take this, but it's liver. It's organ meats from grass-finished animals. And before you get super grossed out, I just want to tell you, I don't actually eat it or enjoy liver, but I just want to tell you, it is nature's multivitamin, richest source of vitamin A, so critical for your skin health. As we know, richest source of natural B12. It has zinc, it has iron, and it has this unique ability for your body to use those minerals really effectively because of the synergy. Okay, so if I don't eat liver, like I said, when I was pregnant, I learned about the fact that they were literally kind of the missing piece. It's really hard to be nutrient sufficient in today's world, because the levels, even if you're choosing nutrient dense foods, because the levels of minerals in our soil are on the decline, which means our food, our plants, and the animals who eat the plants, it's all less nutrient dense than it used to be. So organ meats are a great way to kind of compensate for that. And when I was pregnant, I was like, okay, this is a time in my life, I'm going to do everything I can to get all the nutrients my body needs for that little baby. But I couldn't choke them down. And so my company and I, we put them in capsules. We did heart, liver, and kidney, mostly liver because of its anti-fatigue and vitamin A and vitamin B12. And I had that acne history. So we wanted to be sure that it was nice and high in vitamin A. Put it in capsules so you never have to taste it. It's a wonderful solution. So liver, organ meats, if you don't consume them, I hope that you'll at least start. I've heard liver pate and chicken liver are less off-putting. They're better. They're more palatable if you want to begin somewhere. And I would soak it, if you want to try and make it, soak it in some coconut milk first. I've heard that's a great place to start. Okay, so
well, let me ask you a quick question about that. In case someone wants to actually go and find liver or other organ meats, do you have any suggestions about what they should even be looking for? Because I would assume you shouldn't just go to your regular grocer and buy liver there.
Definitely not. Yeah. How they are raised is really, really critical. So you're going to want to, you can go, sometimes you can get it at a store, Whole Foods, a local health food market, but you must be sure they're grass-fed and grass-finished, okay? And if you're going to meet a farmer, I used to get, when I lived in California, I had a farmer who would do this for me. I looked him in the eye. I asked him the hard questions about how he was raising his animals. I trusted him. And so I highly recommend you definitely trust the source and you vet them. And you're saying, are they using pesticides? There's so many loopholes. Okay, so you want to ask them, are they ever fed grain? Hopefully that's a no. Are they even finished on grain? Hopefully that's a no. Are they using pesticides? That should be a no. Antibiotics. Most farmers, ranchers who do grass-fed finished don't, but it's possible. So it's always worth asking. And then the cream of the crop, like the last question I love is, do you utilize rotational grazing practices? Now, the reason I ask this is because recent research has shown farmers, ranchers who do this, it's not only like sustainable animal agriculture, it's actually regenerative. And so every time you make a decision to vet these people and to choose animal products from farmers who are like literally sequestering carbon and building topsoil and replenishing those mineral stores, the future generations, they benefit, and all of us benefit from more nutrient-dense foods.
Awesome.
It's my favorite thing. Okay.
All right, next.
So liver, leafy greens, oh my goodness, just like antioxidants are key to having vibrant health. So what I do is just a green shake every single day. Romaine, spinach, celery, cucumbers, a few strawberries, maybe some collagen. I often put collagen protein in there or bone broth. Again, collagen is like the scaffold for the skin. And so, and it's amazing for your gut as well. So I do my green shake with the bone broth protein. Number 3 is things from the sea. So minerals our body can't make. Things from the sea are very rich in minerals, as well as omega-3 fatty acids, which are incredible for your skin. If you start to get really dry, flaky skin, just dull skin, that can be an omega-3 deficiency. Also, if you don't have enough of those omega-3s, you're going to be inflamed. And so that's, again, another cause of skin issues. So things like oysters and clams and mussels and wild salmon and all of those things, even seaweed. Now, I know there's certain people who will tell you that too much iodine will cause acne, but I don't see that ever with like food sources. So seaweed, don't go crazy on like the kelp salt, but I just don't think that's a problem. The last 2 are just fermented foods. As I said, this was fascinating to me when I finally understood this connection that if I had digestive issues, I had IBS for, over a decade. 2 days later, I would have a breakout. I think your audience probably knows this, but if your gut is not healthy, if you have a leaky gut, then your skin is going to suffer. Your body's going to be trying to get all of that stuff out, and your skin is the largest organ, so that's what's going to happen. So I really, really like to use fermented foods to restore the bacterial imbalance that you might have. Just adding things like raw organic sauerkraut. We have grass-fed and finished beef stick that actually contains probiotics. If you do the coconut kefir kind of things, just fermented foods. And you don't need to eat them in large amounts. Just a little bit goes a long way. And my last food is just spices, because they're full of antioxidants, and they also are very, very helpful. Some of them they're antibacterial. And we have an apple cider vinegar complex that combines turmeric, very anti-inflammatory, ginger, again, very anti-inflammatory, lemon, and apple cider vinegar, which is going to help you break down and liberate the proteins from your food. What I used to do, and the reason we made that complex, is because I used to drink this tea I called Ignite. And I would put turmeric and cinnamon and ginger and lemon and some cayenne. And what it does was it helps keep my blood sugar stable, because I think you've talked about this, but like PCOS, insulin resistant, if you have unstable blood sugar and insulin issues, that is also a culprit when it comes to breakouts. And so I like to keep my blood sugar nice and steady with spices. They do a beautiful job of helping with this. And I just think they're the most antioxidant rich foods ever, so nutrient dense when you're looking at like gram for gram. And so doubling the amounts you're using in your recipes, making awesome little concoctions like I do to drink every day, just being creative about the different ways you can bring them into your diet, I think is totally key.
And something like that apple cider vinegar complex, is that something that you would recommend people take before they eat? Like, how would you take something like that?
Yeah, you know what? There's a few ways I use it, but yes, before I eat, that is like the first thing my son and I do in the morning. We have like 2 capsules of that with like 2 drops of stevia, and we call it our wellness tonic. So right away in the morning, so we can just kind of jumpstart our body's ability to produce hydrochloric acid and also reduce any inflammation. The other way that's kind of cool is there's research to suggest that it lowers fasting blood sugar levels in type 2 diabetics. It's just really good for, again, blood sugar control. And so, again, if you're on medications, of course, talk to your doctor. But sometimes people take it after they eat as well because of that blood sugar stabilizing effect.
Oh, interesting. That is a really interesting idea, especially, we had another person talk about Bree Weisselman. She had talked about PCOS, and we can certainly link to that in this post, but that's a really interesting idea to help if you are having blood sugar issues. That's a great idea. I love it.
And you don't even need a complex. If you just want to do the organic apple cider vinegar Bragg's with the mother, like a capful or 2, diluted in water, you can use a straw. Can be hard on the enamel. Just toss it back. And yeah, it's very beneficial. The other thing I really love about it is it's actually been shown to reduce cravings. So, I mean, who doesn't want that?
That is always definitely helpful. Well, Autumn, I'm really appreciative that you joined us today to share all of this incredible information because, as we all know, struggling with acne, especially when there's that onset later in life, can be incredibly frustrating. And I hope that these pieces to the puzzle will give everyone who's struggling with this some answers that they're not getting from their dermatologist, because oftentimes it's like a pill or a cream or something like that. And we're starting to think like, hey, maybe, like you said, these are little clues that our body has given us to invite us to look deeper. And food is certainly such a big piece of the puzzle, and adding in nutrient-dense foods is important. So as I was saying, Paleovalley is one of my favorite. I carry you guys with me on flights. I've constantly got your products on me and in my handbag wherever I go. And I was so appreciative when you guys were so nice to give a gift to everybody listening. A nice little coupon that they could use for 10% off our Paleovalley products. Do you want to share what that coupon code would be for them?
Yeah, that's going to be the Healthy Skin Show. And like she said, 10% off store-wide. We've got a lot of products going on, so go there, check it out. You can also call me, or not call me, but you can probably email me if you have questions or concerns at autumn@paleovalley.com. But yeah, we're excited for you guys to try our products. We put a lot of love into them, and I hope they make your skin radiant.
Let us know what you think of this podcast. If you have any questions, I'll let Autumn know that you've left them in our comments section, and maybe she can join us again sometime and talk a little bit more about nutrient-dense foods and how they can be really helpful for those struggling with chronic skin issues. But remember, check out paleovalley.com. You've got the Healthy Skin Show coupon code to use. And Autumn, thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Autumn as much as I did. I totally love her as well as Paleovalley and use a lot of their products in my own life. If you'd like to give them a try, make sure to head on over to the show notes at skinterrupt.com/080 to grab the promo code in order to get your discount off your next order. And if you've got any comments or questions, feel free to leave them there. I'm happy to chime in and share my 2 cents. And hey, maybe we'll even get Autumn to respond as well. As you guys know, I love answering questions, just as I did in today's episode. So if you have a question, go over to healthyskinshow.com and leave us a voicemail. We would love to include your question in a future episode. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. That way you don't miss a single episode. And if you haven't done so yet, share this episode with someone that you know who's looking for alternatives to rebuild healthy skin from the inside out. As always, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.